Thank you. Thank you, Youth of Unity. We love you. We bless you. We appreciate you. Oh, they like doing the fun stuff. We do too. So, month of May. You know, everything around us in the month of May is awakening, isn't it? The green grass, the flowers, the warm weather. We start thinking of plans for the summer. It's a time of awakening and a time when you and I can begin to think different thoughts. How many of us like to think different thoughts? Yes. How many of us think the same thoughts? So this month we want to just step out and say we have a book to share and a theme to share of awakening into what could be some wonderful changes for you in your life. Now, Reverend Linda Martella Whitsitt out of Unity of San Antonio has written a book about this, and it's called Divine Audacity. Divine meaning of spirit, that which is not of this world. But audacity meaning expression, bold, courageous acts and thoughts and speech. So when you put the two together, it's that sacred humanness of all of us that we want to bring out and share with one another. Now, if we think about people on our planet who have been very audacious spiritually, we begin to think in our recent memory bank, Gandhi, Martin Luther King Jr., Mother Teresa, Nelson Mandela, okay? These are the people that begin to evoke within us that sense that they could do more, they know how to do more, almost of a heroic nature. What Reverend Linda is mentioning to us is that not necessarily do you and I need to be absent of stepping forward in many different ways that are bold and audacious, just as did these greats. She calls to mind a race that occurred in 2012, cross-country race that happened in Spain. And a man from Kenya, Mutai, was a favorite. And he was right near the finish line, and he stopped 10 meters short. And the Spanish athlete who was coming right behind him saw the confusion, and rather than take advantage of it, he helped the Kenyan to the finish line to win the race. Put aside his own need to be competitive, because something greater spoke to him about honoring the worth and the dignity of the Kenyan athlete. Pretty audacious, isn't it, to give up a medal? Because that person who won that race would have gone on to European athletic activities. And so, that leads to the Olympics. And so that was a huge, huge moment. There's another man named Bob Thompson. Bob had a company. He sold it for $128 million, and he decided, rather than to pocket all of it, that he would take those employees who did not have a retirement plan, those who did not have any money in the bank, did not have a pension, could not pay for their medical help, didn't know how to support their families after the business closed. And so he dispersed money to them to make sure all of his employees were taken care of. Pretty bold act, doesn't it? Another woman named Chloe was a cancer patient, and she was visited by Reverend Linda, and Linda said to her, "This is a time for you to receive love." And Chloe said, "No, it is time for me to be love. Be love in action, no matter what's going on in my physical body." Very bold and courageous thing to do at a time when one could be in a victim consciousness or feeling very lonely. Quite the opposite. She was filled with spirit. So you and I can think about ways for you, for me, to begin thinking outside of our normal box and move into an expanded consciousness. So we have a little popping going on. It's helping wake us up even more, isn't it? So this is what this month is about. It's a centering, a focusing time, and a time for us to wake up to every thought that we think and words that we say. Now, if we look to Jesus, our way shower, he said, I and the Father are one. So any of the healings that he did were truly about demonstrating his oneness and activating it in the person who was the recipient. So they too could say, I and the Father are one. And Jesus could say, your faith has made you whole and healed. Not me. All of it came through the Father. Through that understanding that there is only one presence, one power in this universe, and it is good. So if we understand that Jesus knew how to do healings, you and I then can turn that around and heal ourselves. Now, the way Charles Fillmore explained it in his book, 12 Powers of Man, I like to say 12 powers in everyone, that we know these powers are centers within us, similar to the Eastern tradition of chakras, where constant awakenings occur into enlightenment. Well, the same is true in our New Thought teachings, that there are centers, energy centers within each of us that can be awoken to the point where we begin to burn on all cylinders and can be that radiant expression of the Christ. So when we say the Christ in unity terms, it means the fully awakened expression of your divine essence in you, fully awakened. So Charles Fillmore, our co-founder in Unity, says there are 12 of these faculties in your bulletin, in the front flyer. Open it up right now. I will show you the acronym that we use in our classes to remember these 12 powers. And it is lip, juice, flows. So 12 powers, meaning L for lip, would be love. I for imagination, P for power. And so it goes through our remembering of these 12 powers. These 12 powers can be remembered through remembering our 12 disciples. John, for instance, was the disciple of love. That's the power we can awaken within ourselves. Peter was the disciple of faith. That's the power we can awaken within ourselves. Andrew of strength, and so on. So that each particular disciple can be remembered, each power within us can be awoken, and we too can rise in consciousness. So Richard's going to explain a little bit more to us about these 12 powers. I just want to read to you that when we talk about light in the Bible, it's spread throughout our Judeo-Christian understandings. Jesus said, I'm the light of the world. And yet in Isaiah, we read, arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord has risen upon you. Now, in New Thought, we say the Lord is the I am presence within us, not a Lord out there, but within. For darkness shall cover the earth, and thick darkness the peoples. Our consciousness can be very muddled and thick. But the Lord will arise upon you, and his glory will appear over you. Nations shall come to your light, and kings to the brightness of your dawn. So let's set our intention this month. We have 5 Sundays in May, that we will begin to think out of the box, to begin to awaken deeper to what it means to being that superhero and heroine in our own lives, awakening fully to the total expression of who we are, the Christ. Richard.
This week, as many of you know, and we've mentioned this, we had the Buddhist monks here. And we had meditation at 11 or 4 o'clock. for those who weren't here, I just want you to know that there was somewhere in the neighborhood of 100 to 200 people at each of the services this week, which was a lesson for me. And I'm going to give some thought to what the lesson was. But, there is an attraction to going into the silence. There is an attraction to going within. Geshe, who was the leader of the group, began each meditation by, or just about every meditation, by sharing that when we are present on the outside, when we look at the world from the outside in, we start to see ourselves in a negative way. We don't think we're very good. We judge ourselves. That when we go within, we find that we are good, that we are in alignment with Spirit. And that's why we meditate on a regular basis. And that's true here at Unity. We meditate to find the true self, to be in one with that self. And we do it when we look within ourselves. I don't know of any other way to doing it. You have to go within first. And sometimes that's difficult. Sometimes that's challenging. When Vicki's talking about these 12 powers, the first class I ever had in Unity was the 12 powers, and I had been in Unity for 3 weeks. And I walked out of the first class and said, they are crazy. I don't know what they are talking about. Being a former Baptist, the word power was not something I could associate with at that time. I just couldn't identify because we weren't supposed to be powerful, right? Maybe you were taught you weren't supposed to be powerful. Matter of fact, what you are is unworthy. And only by the grace of God are you even accepted by God, the God out there, the Jesus out there. And so what happened over time, and obviously I wasn't there at that point, was I started to understand that as we go within, we begin to identify the strengths of being spiritual. That spirituality and the growth and consciousness of spirit grows within us when we go within, not without. You see, when I go without, what happens is I tend to want to be right. And so I see a world of duality. And I'm right and many others are wrong. When I go without, I have relationships that kind of break down. And I think the reason they break down is because I keep looking for a relationship that's going to make me happy. I keep looking for a relationship that's going to make me love me more. I'm going to keep looking for a relationship that says, yes, this is peace, this is it. And I can't find that relationship, even with Vicki. Because, you see, I can't rely on her to make me happy. I can't rely on her to make me peaceful. I can't rely on her to make me loving. I have that responsibility to find that within myself and not go outside of myself to look for it. It's only until I go within myself so I can have a more positive and open relationship with another individual that I am able to see the relationship as one that is fulfilling, that helps me grow, that helps me come to know myself. We also go without looking, and I think we all are looking for, we're all looking for, and we don't call it a spiritual path, but we're looking for peace. We're looking for the answer. We're looking to get out of the chaos, to have some sort of order in our lives. And as we do that, we look again outside of ourselves. Sometimes we mess around with drugs because we think that's the answer. Sometimes we look at alcohol as part of the answer because it relaxes us temporarily. Sometimes we look at shopping, and boy, I can do this one good, okay, as a way to escape and to think that what I just bought, which is someday going to end up in a garage sale, is going to make me happy. It's going to fulfill me. And I've come to understand, and it took me a while to do this, that has nothing to do with happiness at all. It's nice to have things that make life simpler. It's nice to have things that that, it's nice to have a stove so I don't have to make a fire, right? Those things are kind of nice to have. But at the same time, I could, if I had to, build a fire and cook my own food. Well, I could have Vicki build a fire, cook my own food, okay? Seems to me a better solution, but anyway. So we look outside of ourselves for the answers. We think that those things that make us comfortable are going to make us happy, and again, that's not what happens. In Unity, what we really teach is that we need to have a process. I will tell you, coming to hear the monks was wonderful. And if somebody came and they heard that and they were stirred by that, and we saw tears, we saw laughter, we saw joy, we had experiences people shared with us this week. But if that's the only experience the person has, it won't last long. It'll last for a while. And it'll never be forgotten, don't get me wrong. Because when you are touched by the divine within you, when you come in contact with that, it does change your life. But how do I sustain it? How do I grow in such a way that I can manifest heaven on earth right here, right now, in this time? How do I grow in such a way that I really come to understand who and what I am as a spiritual being? And the monk said that takes time. It takes time. It takes a process. And that's what the 12 powers, as I learned, are all about. And think of them as spiritual gifts, and we all have them. Let's use one as an example. And when I say we all have them, what I mean is our job is to direct these gifts, is to be in charge, if you would, and allow the intelligence within us and the faith within us to direct the gifts. For example, all the gifts are always on go. They don't go on and off. You don't have to get more faith. You got plenty of faith just the way you are. It's just according to how you direct your faith. You see, if I direct my faith outward and say, I am really concerned that I might lose my job. Or I'm really concerned that my relationship is not going to stay healthy because it seems to always go astray, and that's what I focus on. Guess what happens? Yeah, that's faith in action. And so what I start to believe in, what I start to see within myself becomes visible in the future. And so the relationship goes astray. Doesn't mean it can't be fixed, but it goes astray. Things happen so that I'm not in alignment with my true self. And so I use my faith incorrectly. I'm worried about being sick. My mother got certain things, so maybe I'm going to have it. And I worry myself about it to the point that, guess what? The cells in my body say, you're right. That's exactly what you've got because you inherited it. Myrtle Fillmore put an end to that, who was a co-founder of Unity, when she said, I do not inherit my parents' or my family's sickness, and affirmed that within herself. And the cells in her body began to understand that, and so she healed. See, she redirected her faith. And with that, she took the other powers that we have as spiritual gifts, the power of strength, the power of will. And she allowed Spirit to help her direct those powers, those gifts. And as that happened, then she started to grow. She grew spiritually first, she said, and then she started to heal within her body. And after 2.5 years, and she was 46 years old, she lived to be 86 years old. After 2.5 years, she said she never had another sick day in the rest of her life. Not even a cold. Because she didn't think that she was going to have that. And when she decided to make her transition, I say it that way, she literally said goodbye to the coworkers, 2 days, went home, lied down, fell asleep, and passed away. She said, I've done my work. The wonderful thing is that as we go within, we no longer fear life itself. When we go within, we're willing to surrender to that higher self. Because we're not surrendering to something out there that's going to make me do something I don't want to do. I am surrendering to the desires of my heart. And that brings us peace and understanding. So we use these 12 powers the power of life itself, the power of divine order, the power of power, the power of understanding and discernment, the power of wisdom. We use these powers and we develop these powers through time and meditation by going within, and we learn to do that sometimes by approaching it intellectually. In the West, we usually approach things intellectually first. Then we take the big leap off and step out in faith to find out the truth of who we are. And as we find that out, we find a way and a process in which we can manifest heaven on earth for ourselves, where we can manifest the good that we want to bring into our lives. If I am led spiritually to discern and to figure out a way to be successful in my business life, that is a very healthy way to live. If on the other hand, which is what I did when I had my business, I decided that the business was going to make me have respect. I decided the business would give me power. I decided the money was important because it's the only thing people understood. And it wasn't fulfilling. I was not at peace. And my family felt that, and I felt that. But I had to step away from it and go through some things in order to understand it. I had to go through a process. And part of that process was happening to me, and I didn't even know it. You know, I was awake at the wheel. But what was happening is I was starting to break away, to become something different, to become somebody new. I thought. And what I was really doing is breaking away those things that kept the true self coming out. See the difference? I'm breaking away those things that interfere with the truth of who I am. I'm breaking away from ego. I'm breaking away from fear. I'm breaking away from the world as I was taught to see it. I'm breaking away from the idea that I've got to attack something or fight something to get my way. And when I say get my way on a personal basis, that's exactly what I have to do in this world. But it doesn't work. Instead, what I want to do is live in non-duality. I want to live in oneness. I want to accept what is as is. And if I feel like it ought to be changed for the good of people, then let's change it. Let's go to work. Let's do something. Doesn't mean I sit in the corner and meditate all day. It means I get busy carrying out a process that helps me manifest the good that the world is and the good in others. So I invite you to break away. To break away. Find life. Find joy. Find peace. But break away by going within and letting the shadow side, which is your friend, come forth so that it has no power over you. That you are in control of your life because you have a process, a way in which you can follow that brings forth all the good that you are. You are perfection in the eyes of that which created us. You are the divine idea. You are the perfect one. And when we go within, as Geshe said, or Geshe said, did I say that wrong? I still said it wrong. Anyway, Geshe said, that's it. As Geshe said, when we go within, we find the good. You see, we find ourselves. And we are, and you are, good because we are created in the image and likeness, and we manifest all that God is. God is principle. God is love. We are loving. God is wisdom. We are wise. God is compassion. We are compassionate. That's how we manifest the light. That's how we become the light. But it's a process. And I invite each and every one of you to join us in this process as we move forward to learn who and what we are, and to follow that truth no matter what anybody else says, no matter what I think sometimes, but instead how I am led by Spirit to do that. So break away. Break away. Break away. God bless you. Go right to the offering.